But hope everyone is having a good Sunday and a good Sunday evening. Thank you for coming to spend some time with us. We've done these a little bit with some other programs month to month. It's a good chance to catch up with those of you who are invested in Notre Dame athletics, and obviously those of you who swam and gave your blood, sweat, and tears for, in this case, the swimming and diving program. So thanks for joining us. We're going to do a little bit of past, present, and future on Notre Dame swimming. I'm going to introduce Don to kind of MC and host and moderate with Coach Litzinger today, someone that knows what they're talking about. Don's having a little bit of video issues, but you'll see his audio situation working down there. And Don's an 82 alum. I know a lot of you know him. Had 3 daughters that came here and swam. He's a true example of someone that has invested their time, talent, and treasure. He, along with his wife, Ann. And I just want to thank him for everything that he does for Notre Dame. He's our current Monogram Club president. He serves on our Student Athlete Advisory Council, and he's just a true champion for everything that we're doing, and a lot of family history at Notre Dame. He's the CEO of Dentsply Sirona. And before that, a lot of executive years with Cardinal Health, Johnson & Johnson, and some other great organizations. So, Don, thanks for coming in here to do the hard work here and do the heavy lifting with Coach Litzinger. Let me off the hook.
Well, thanks so much, Brian. But let's get to the main guy. Let's introduce Coach.
Yeah, well, our fearless leader, Coach Litzinger. Thanks for when we first had this for a moment at a different time, we talked about an evening being a better opportunity to get together. And I think he was right. We got a good amount of people on this call. So thanks, Coach, for suggesting that. I think it fits schedules better. But Coach has been our fearless leader now for 6 seasons, coming to us via North Carolina. Many of you have had a chance to meet him and get to know him a little bit, especially with last year's reunion, which I know he wants to touch on. But obviously has the program on a tremendous trajectory, taking a lot of the great work that you all have put in and just going forward with it, with 58 All-Americans and some really good positions that our teams were in this last year as the season finished, and obviously the years prior. So really excited about where both the men's and women's programs are going with him at the helm of both. And Coach Litzinger, thank you for your time as well.
Yeah, thank you very much, Brian. And Don, thank you so much. I can tell you this is one of the things that I've cherished over the last 6 years. And I always knew that Notre Dame was a special place, but our former athletes and friends of our former athletes have been incredible during my 6 years here. You've been incredibly welcoming. I've learned a lot about the past of Notre Dame in the swimming and diving program. It's been great to touch each generation, the Coach Starks, the Coach Welshes, and beyond now. And just looking at the attendee list, I know we've got a great sampling of everybody. So with that being said, Brian, if you will, I just want to shoot the video from last year's 60th reunion to remind everybody what a great time that was. And then we can kind of dig into the good stuff.
Great. I'm going to tee that up. We're testing my technical ability right off the bat, and then I will bow out and turn it over to you, Don. So let's see if we can get this going.
Very good.
One of the first things you hear when you come on campus is welcome to Notre Dame, but in reality, it's welcome back to Notre Dame for all our alumni. What we've established over 60 years of men's swimming and 38 years of women's swimming is an incredible tradition of giving back, participation, and excellence. We're really thrilled to have all our people back this weekend.
I have been involved with Masters swimming for about 30 years. Been part of the Irish Masters team for the last 11 years, so I still am in the water.
It's amazing how much history this program has and what a future we also will be having as well.
I swam.
And I do.
And our daughter swims on the team now.
Wow.
Awesome.
Mike.
Yeah.
I want to jump in the pool. I do that, except North Carolina, we're in phase 1. We have no pools to jump into, man. Holy smoke.
That's not good.
exciting.
We have one of our top recruits is coming out of North Carolina next year, Don.
Well, Mac, Swim Mac is still open. It's like fat old people. They kind of discourage us from being in the pool too often. Anyway, so Mike, what an opportunity, and it's so exciting that we've got 3 generations. We have the Coach Starks, the Coach Welsh, and the Coach Litzingers. But for the Coach Welshes and Coach Starks, Mike, give us your 60-second bio, and then more importantly, why'd you come to Notre Dame?
Yeah, the quick bio would be I took a detour from law school to coach. Obviously, that detour has continued. For those of you who remember the rivalry, I did coach at St. Bonaventure University for a while. My father taught there for 30 years, so that was kind of a homegrown thing. But then I went on to Ohio State University, was the head coach at the University of Utah, and then on to University of North Carolina, Chapel Hill, where I was the associate head coach before coming to Notre Dame. But I really am very proud having 2 uncles who graduated, actually one a Holy Cross priest. So I know the length and breadth and depth of the history of Notre Dame, and I'm very, very proud and excited to lead this swimming and diving program right now.
And Mike, I know one of the things you are incredibly proud of is your family. So what's the rest of the Litzingers look like? And should we anticipate swimmers coming anytime soon?
Well, we have one. So my wife, Julie, is here with all of us, and she's listening in. But I have a 13-year-old daughter, Grace, who is a swimmer, swims at Irish Aquatics, and a 14-year-old daughter, freshman at St. Joseph High School, Gabby. So we are entrenched in the Notre Dame community, and been to all the games this year and cheering the Irish on, even though it was a hard-fought defensive battle on Saturday against Louisville. Glad we got the W, and we're going to be cheering the Irish all along the rest of the way.
Yeah, and I'll tell you, Mike, there's probably not too many people on the phone right now that wouldn't love to be able to catch a game. But look, I'm just at this point happy that we have a season. And Mike, maybe that's a great way to jump off. I mean, how have you thought about navigating a COVID environment where it's stop-start? I mean, when everyone got sent home in March, how do you think about, seniors that didn't get to go to their final meets and things like that? Just take us through a little of the chronology and thinking there. What an amazing story.
Yeah, it was the week before we left for the women's NCAA Championships, and we had an inkling that something was happening, but all the way through the Wednesday prior to the championship, we were told we were going. And unfortunately, we had a meeting right before practice on Thursday. We're told that everything's canceled. We need to make flight arrangements for our athletes to get home as quickly as possible. Of course, we were on this heading into the spring break. So at that point, it was really just kind of cutting the cord quickly. And people didn't have a chance to react or be anything but emotional about it. I had to tell the seniors that they weren't going to have an NCAA championships. We had very talented freshmen who were on their way to their first, and it's very important to get that experience. So the next thing you know, I said, okay, we're not going. Let's get your flight arrangements made. And they were out the door the next day. And I did not see anyone until school started in August, which was really, really difficult for all of us. Of course, we did a lot of Zooming, but the way that our program works and the dedication of all of our athletes, people started seeing the end. And I think that's one of the things that Notre Dame equips everybody for, is we're going to find a way to stay motivated. We're going to find a way to stay great at what we do. And we're not going to worry about what's happening right now. I mean, it's important, and we're going to socially distance and all of that, but we are going to look forward and find a solution to this. And how can we operate and stay vital to each other as coaches and athletes and continue to progress as a team. And we spent a lot of time talking about that and planning, and our coaching staff, our sportsmen, on all of that. And when we regrouped on August 11th, the first day of classes, we had 1 week and then we were back to it. And we have been back to it. We'll start our 10th week of training tomorrow morning at 6 a.m. So we're moving forward and we're getting this done and have had zero interruptions in our training.
Which is amazing, Mike. I actually saw a statistic in Swim Swam the other day that the NCAA Division I college swimmers have yet to report a pool-based transmission of COVID. But you would think a bunch of heavily breathing athletes in a relatively narrow space would be a problem. So how have you thought about spreading people out? How do you do dry land? I mean, how do you do nutrition and team meetings?
Right. All team meetings are done via Zoom. Nutrition, the sports nutrition staff has done a really good job here of supplementing. Of course, the dining halls were everything was grab and go and seating outside until the beginning of last week. And then the kids could go inside. So as you guys probably remember on campus, if there's food left out or there's a food area, they were battling with the raccoons and skunks for a while on campus, which I think they call them trash pandas, but which was pretty hilarious. But they found a way to make it work. And then again, for training, we started off in phases. So phase one was simply 2 people per lane, starting at opposite ends. We had 3 sections of the pool. We were lucky enough to split the pool up into 3 sections, no more than 10 per section. And we would just start and go at opposite ends. We staged the locker rooms. So we could only have, I think 15 people in the locker room during stage 1 at a time, and they had to be spread out. So we had a system worked up, and all credit to the student athletes. They did a fantastic job following all directions. Phase 2, we could inject more people together. The dry land could be done, but it had to be 12 feet apart. It couldn't be 6 feet apart because they thought that, again, heavily breathing people would transmit. Of course, they are all wearing their masks during the dry land. But we have all kinds of disinfectants and wipes, everything to clean equipment. But this phase 3 that we're in right now, we're full go. So everybody's in the pool together, diving the same thing, and we're doing a great job and just kind of working our way through things and heading towards our first meet, which is University of Pittsburgh at home, November 6th and 7th.
Wow. It's funny you mentioned the trash pandas, Mike. Back in the day when we would be swimming in the rock for the lack of, and the dining hall would close at 6:15, and it was a mad sprint out of the rock at 6, running to the South Dining Hall trying to get squared away. But that's exciting, Mike. You're actually talking about a meet coming up. I got to believe your athletes are like chomping, raring at the bit. Anything that gives you a sense of normalcy. I mean, do you feel that they're going to be able to compete? Their heads in the game, and or, are they in shape, or has this been kind of stop and start?
No, we didn't start looking like our old selves until about 3 weeks ago, honestly. I think it was deconditioning, and there were a few other things, but we were pretty aggressive with them, and they handled it very, very well. No complaints, no injuries. And about, again, like 2.5 weeks ago, they started coming alive. We had a small inter squad meet 2 weekends ago. They looked really decently sharp. We're going to have another one this weekend, but we're going to wear tech suits. I think anybody who's following swimming right now they're approaching it as each competition or each opportunity to get off the blocks is more like the summer. It's more like those big summer invites where everybody suits up, quote unquote, and tries to swim really fast. So we're going to do that to see what it looks like for us and how we can better prepare for Pittsburgh. And another answer to the question is the ACC has a very rigorous medical kind of procedure for competition, especially for indoor sports. So Pittsburgh and Notre Dame are on the same page, certainly in the same conference. So we've already worked out all the kinks on that. There will be no spectators. And unfortunately, there won't be any live streaming of meets because the ACC network owns all the rights to anything that's going to be put out over the air, even swimming and diving. So, but we're ready. Our staff is ready. Our sports med staff is ready. The administration's ready. We just need Pittsburgh to show up, and we're going to do it.
Well, hopefully you need them to show up. You need to kick their butts, and then you need to not have any socialization after watching.
Right.
So that'll be great. Mike, you mentioned the ACC. Is there thoughts on definition of when a championship may be, what that may look like? Traditionally that would be a gigantic event with very many badly dressed people in the stands. So what is that going to look like?
Well, at this point, we had an ACC coaches call last week, and the championships are on to be at Greensboro the second and third week in February. So they're not moving on that date at this point. We did talk briefly about having a pod championship, which would mean that you are split up by region into separate sites. So for example, it would be Miami, Florida State, and Georgia Tech would compete at Georgia Tech. NC State, UNC, and Duke would compete at Carolina, probably dive at Duke because they have a platform. Virginia Tech, UVA, and Pittsburgh at Virginia Tech because they have the facility that hosts us, that could host it. But that would leave us, Louisville, and Boston College to compete at Louisville. I don't think that's going to go through, but that is a possibility if we have to downsize the number of participants at the meet. But I really feel strongly that the ACC is committed to having a championship.
And then, Mike, what's the NCAA saying at this point?
They're not saying anything. We haven't heard from the NCAA yet. The biggest thing for the NCAA now is whether they continue to hold the men's championships at the University of Iowa. And I'm sure most of you know that University of Iowa just recently announced that they were going to discontinue swimming and diving along with gymnastics and men's tennis there. So they may pull out, but that's all we've heard from the NCAA at this point about the championship.
So that gets pretty tricky for you. I mean, do your kids all really focused on ACCs as kind of the finale, and do you go to try and blow that out versus do you have to bring them up and bring them back down for NCAAs? Right.
I think again, I'm going to lean towards what we have done in the summers. You have these limited competition opportunities in the summer as you prepare for like a U.S. national or a trials meet. And so you swim fast at all of them. And the trick is going to be making sure you swim fastest at the right point, right? So I think what we'll end up doing is, giving these little short periods of rest for people and actually give us a lot of information on how to prepare for the NCAAs if they are one. But I keep telling the team it's the same message. Hey, it doesn't matter who's competing, or if Arizona State, for example, opts out for the year, it doesn't matter to us. We're going to forge ahead and move forward. You can still be an ACC champion this year, and you can still be an All-American this year at the NCAA Championships. So let's focus on that. And until there's not a championship, there is, and we're going to work just like there is one.
And that's terrific, Mike. You're talking a lot about aspirations that are starting at the ACC level and starting to talk about All-Americans and thinking about that. Mike, when 40 years ago, people like myself and John Gibbons and others were out walking around campus, we always used to say, how good could Notre Dame swimming be? Knowing that the present talent wasn't going to get us there. But as you look at Notre Dame and look at facilities and aspirations, what do you think a realistic goal for Notre Dame swimming is in the next 10 years?
Right. Well, first off, I can tell you this is that we've got a tremendous start because of the legacy that we've been left. But it's a different world, Don, and you know this. Here's a quick stat for you. Out of the top 20 teams in the NCAA last year, 6 of them were from the ACC. Okay. So no other team had as many, or no other conference had as many teams ranked in the top 20. Okay. The next one was the SEC with 5. The Big Ten only had 2 to 3. All right. It depends on what side you look on. So we're in the toughest and deepest conference, I think, in the country. The SEC is brutal. There's no question about it. But the quality that's in the ACC, I mean, talk about baptism by fire. Okay. And so when we were able to break into that top 3 on the men's side and that top 4 on the women's side, now we're talking about a little bit of rare air. So the question becomes, is your focus a conference championship or is it going to be a national finish? And we're always going to train like we want to win the conference. There's no question about that. But as I talk to recruits and as we continue to get these ranked recruiting classes, especially over the last 2 to 3 years, which we've had, they want to talk about the last meet, right? The most important meet for these kids was the last meet they swam in, which was the elite championship. And so we're starting to fish in that pond regularly now. And it's a little bit of a balancing act, but make no mistake about it. When Notre Dame joined the ACC, it added to a really good swimming conference, but everybody has stepped their game up in that conference, and it is tough as all nails. But it's a lot of fun, and I think we're exactly where we want to be, not in terms necessarily of finish, but in that competitive cauldron. And once we get hardened in that competitive cauldron, then we can move on to the nationals and really look forward to doing some damage out there, because we've already seen the best. We've already competed with the best. We've already won our conference, individual titles or top 3 podiums or relays. It's just a process to get to the next step, really. And we're thrilled to be able to do it.
Yeah, and actually, Mike, I was privileged enough to watch a national record and an NCAA win by Emma Rainey. So it's 100% possible that aspiration is real, and what a lot of fun.
Yeah, in getting back to your question about how good we can really be, as I didn't really finish that off. I don't see why we can't consistently be in the top 10. Where Notre Dame athletics belongs. That's the goal I've had. I've relayed that to Jack. And, there's some steps that we need to take, and we're taking them. One of the big ones was when we combined as a program, I asked to fully flesh the staff out. So that's a lot. That's a head coach, a diving coach, and then 5 assistant coaches. We also have 2 volunteer coaches. So we've got the coverage now. We can recruit without missing a whole lot. We can keep the team running without missing a whole lot. And now it's a matter of us starting to build on the history of Notre Dame swimming and diving. And of course, you said it perfectly. We have had a national champion and an American record holder here. We've had multiple ACC champions. We're having All-Americans with regularity now. And those are the first steps in adding to this great history. We already know that we've got one of the best universities in the world to sell. That's not a problem. Facility-wise, well, honestly, if you look at the top 20, other than Louisville and maybe North Carolina, because they're dipping in and out of the top 20, everybody else has a facility that they can host a championship at. And when that happens, especially when you host age group championships, you get people on campus that normally don't visit campus, right? And they swim fast in your pool or dive well, and it rings a bell. And it bothers me to go to the University of Texas for a junior national championship, and in between sessions, they're running tours of campus. So do we want to get there? Of course we do, but we're dealing with what we have right now, and we have a really damn good product to sell, and we're going to continue to work it.
And Mike, there's two things that brings up, as we want to continue some of the conversation. What can we do to help in the short term, and then what do we need to do to be helping in the long term? But one of the things that I was really surprised to see is University of Iowa, and you brought it up that they canceled their men's swim program, and that's a magnificent facility. I was down there when our daughters were swimming, and that was one of the the really premier kind of November meets, get your first semester fast swimming, and to see that step, I mean that had to really send shockwaves. That's a Big Ten school that had a well-established program. To see them throw in the towel, has to be a little unnerving.
Absolutely, and I was a graduate assistant coach at the University of Iowa. I got my graduate degree there. Don, I know we have a mutual friend who swam at Iowa, actually, when I was there. But, it's the birthplace of the butterfly stroke, right? David Armbruster developed the butterfly stroke at the University of Iowa. And I think it just shows that college athletics in general can be very tenuous in nature. And, money talks, right? And you want to put yourself in a position that I think you're less of a financial burden or a worry for the Department of Athletics. Now, I was in a unique situation. They had a huge deficit. I think the COVID piece really played into it. But when you're losing $109 million, I think that was, and they went and cut a men's and women's swimming diving program, I don't think that their budget really, frankly, and I'm a little biased because I'm an alum there, but, that's kind of a drop in a bucket up against $109 or $110 million deficit, right? So I know that the Iowa program's working really hard to sustain itself. And I think that's a key for us is looking ahead. I know Notre Dame has a much wider moat of protection around the castle than most universities do with our endowment. But I think it's really important that we take a good hard look at how we can be a little bit more self-sustaining. So when those hard conversations come, they pass right over top of us. And they do say that, hey, swimming and diving has their stuff together. Their support is incredible, which it is. And we're able to withstand those kind of storms.
Yeah, and Mike, we'll come back to that a little bit, but just for people on the call, I always get leery when I get on a Notre Dame call. First thing I do is I put my hand against my wallet and say, okay, they're asking for money, and that our intent tonight is just to really update people with where the program is and what you're trying to accomplish. Mike, as you've got a huge challenge coming up though, so you'll get your kids to swim fast in the first semester, and then Notre Dame announced that they're basically going to go on break after Thanksgiving, and then not bringing back, I think I saw the announcement the other day, until February. So that's, right. Particularly if you're talking about ACCs sitting in the second week of February, how are you thinking about that?
Yeah, well, I've been doing a lot of thinking about that, honestly. And as most of you know who swum and some of the people who've swum since I've been here, we plan very well. Notre Dame does it right. We've got 10 weeks to fill. And normally we only have 4. And for 2 of those glorious weeks, we're at home, and 2 of them were in Florida at Naples doing a training camp. And I'm sure many of you remember the training camps that you've done. Your team solidifies, you grow stronger, you're able to train at a high level. And those are really special times. But now we're facing November 20th, finals ends, and we're probably not going to go home till the first or second week of December. So there's that piece. And then there's the post-Christmas piece. And we may have to, when we come back, we may have to quarantine for 3, 4, 5 days. We haven't been told yet. But we're looking at a serious, some serious time on campus, which is not a bad thing, but it's something that we didn't plan for. And, we were under some strict budget constraints, and we're working hard with the administration to make sure that we're doing the right things for our athletes. I had a very frank conversation with Jack Swarbrick last week. He understands what we do and how we do it. I really feel comfortable with that. I'm hoping to hear this week how that's all going to play out, because the administration does have some plans for all the winter sports that are going to be staying over the break. And, we do swim in University of Indianapolis at IUPUI and along with Cincinnati on December 4th and 5th. So hopefully they don't kick us out before then.
Yeah. Wow. It was interesting. IUPUI wound up, one or two of the Big Easts, which were kind of the generation before right. ACCs. And that was always going down to Indianapolis was always terrific. And, Mike, I just think, just speaking for a person of one, I've been so impressed with how the administration has approached COVID, making the decision to bring kids back, making decisions, we're going to try and play sports, serving, really as a partner with the ACC and stepping up. And I'm sure that they're being challenged in daily. The football team's got 37 kids 2 weeks ago. I'm sure the tennis team or something like that's going to show up. I think by and large, their commitment to understanding the undergrad experience is about being at Notre Dame and experiencing everything the university has to offer is so critical. So just on behalf of an old swammer and a parent of other swammers, congrats to the university. I realize you got a tremendous number of challenges coming up in the future, but boy, they've kind of fought through every challenge so far. But
right,
Mike, and speaking of that, there's three last things I want to get into, but working with the Rockne Athletic Fund and Brian Powell and his team, just want to. There are a lot of people on the call today, and this is going to go out to our entire swimming network. One of the ways that we as alumni can certainly help is, make some contributions. And right now the Rockne Athletic Fund is a clear way of helping defray expenses across not just swimming, but other things. So and by the way, speaking as a Monogram Club person, certainly a great way to pay what used to be your Monogram dues going into the Rockne Athletic Fund certainly gives Jack a little bit more dry powder, and you can designate that at swimmers. And as a matter of fact, Mike, I heard that the generous people over at the Rockne Athletic Fund have given us a challenge. If we can raise $50,000 among the swimming community, that'll be matched by some alum has been very generous and kind of tried to help us out. So if we can raise $50,000, that'll be matched by $50,000. So, I'm going to put the challenge out to Brian Powell. We're going to have to get this out to all the swammers back from Coach Stark, Coach Welsh, and Coach Litzinger. But we'll come back to that in a little bit. Mike, as you kind of think about, working in the future, how are you doing scholarship wise right now? Because, I think people know that it's a scholarship program, but how many scholarships, sure. Are available today? And you mentioned your staff. What are we talking about from a scholarship perspective today?
Well, we're fully funded on the men's and women's side, according to the NCAA ruling, which is 14 on the women's side, 14 full scholarships, and 9.9 men. Okay, so they just couldn't find that 1% to make it 10, so it's 9.9. And we are very blessed to have over 50% of our men's scholarships endowed, which is fantastic, and it's a credit to all our alumni and friends and donors out there. And we recently received quite a large donation this summer for a scholarship, and it was very welcome. And then on the women's side, we're a little bit shorter on that. We're about 12 to 15% endowed on the women's side, but we have our money out there, and feel really good about the young men and women, especially those of you who endowed a scholarship and they're representing your generosity. Great kids, hard workers. They want to be great in all facets of life, and you should be very proud of them. So, but again, I think that's one of the ways we can, continue to widen our moat and fortify our program is endowing scholarships. Of course, Carl Peterson is in the process of endowing my position, the head coaching position, which is fantastic. And we've had several other people ask recently on how they could help the program, helping endow the operating budget or an assistant coaching position is really fantastic, because every time you hear, James Rohr, director of athletics, or position that's endowed, it adds something a little bit more special to it for sure. But we also know that that's going to continue on for the future.
Yeah, and that's terrific. So, Mike, if you actually, in fact, endow an assistant coach's job, is there privileges with that? Is it like unlimited swimming when you're back on the university, swag, or how does that work? I mean, there's got to be some kind of incentive somewhere.
Yeah, sure. Come on in, come on back, and we'll take care of you. No question about it. Yeah.
And Mike, there's because people were nice enough to submit questions, and we'll come back to some of the fundraising. But two of the questions that I'd love to hear you talk about. Number one is Tim Welsh, and I know we all carry Tim in our prayers, and he's been tough as nails fighting through some issues there. And how's Coach Welsh doing? So many people absolutely love that man, and in my opinion, he's really one of the true Notre Dame people that made Notre Dame and make Notre Dame so special. But how's Coach Tim doing?
Yeah, well, I think at one point, Don, I think we can let Tim speak for himself, but he's here, and he's doing really well, and incredible spirit as always. But
hey, Mike, one of the other things that I thought was really, really well done was the 60th anniversary. I unfortunately had a business obligation, but I had so many friends say that was just a super well done event. Can we try and get something post COVID on the books a year in front and get all these swammers back? Because a hallmark of Notre Dame, and I think you said it so well, Notre Dame swimming. Hey, look, I'd love to see as many All-Americans as you can, but I just know we've been able to contribute so many doctors and lawyers and people who have really made a tremendous mark in the world. And it's great to bring all those people back who all owe so much to Notre Dame swimming and the lessons that we learned in and out of the pool. So come on, is there going to be a 65th, or, do we do a 62 and a half? That's certainly something post COVID. I think we got to get on the books.
Yeah, I think you're right. I think a 62 and a half may be in order when this all kind of clears up or we get it under control. I think everybody needs a good get together, right? And I think we need to plan on it. And one of the things that I would really like to do, and I think everybody out there has been wonderful, especially working through the Monogram Club, is introducing our current seniors and maybe our rising juniors to all our alumni and friends out there, because you guys were in those positions. You're successful. You know what it's like heading into that world, and just a great introduction to those kind of kids, and help them help extend your expertise to them on how to navigate the next steps after they get out of the pool and leave this great campus. I think is really well worth it. That's something that I think we need to do a much better job at. Even though I feel really good about our graduates so far since I've been here, they're all really motivated and successful. But I think we need to bridge that gap a little bit more. And I think a 62 and a half reunion would be exactly what we need.
Yeah, and Mike, I would just urge everybody on the call. There's a couple ways that we can reach out and help the athletes. There's, the Irish Compass, which is a program that's now being run out of the university that tries to hook up alums with kids coming out of school, and that you can absolutely identify yourself as a swimmer. And the other part is one of the things that the Monogram Club is doing is running the Monogram Career Network, which gives you an opportunity, kind of after people have been out a year or two. We've been able to build a pretty extensive network of former Monogram winners who would certainly be interested in reaching back and helping, people who have been out a year or two. And again, as you think about contributions, some of the areas that I think the Monogram Club, among others, is looking to endow is to really continue to beef up, kind of that career coaching. Right now, I think the athletic department, Brian, has two people that basically are there for career development for athletes, and that's a position that I think we all can do a good job supporting with our expertise. So Coach, you always want to leave them wanting more here. So if I was to summarize, as we think about it, and I'll give you a last couple words, and then I'll make one more little fundraising pitch. So COVID. You guys are being the Fighting Irish, and you're overcoming big challenge, right?
We are.
And you're going to have a season this year, so we can continue to root for our beloved Fighting Irish aquatic team. Right, basically through February. You said the second week in February, right?
Yeah, right now we've got, again, Pittsburgh coming up, first weekend in November, first weekend in December. We're down at IUPUI with Cincinnati. Then we will have a Shamrock invite. It just may be downscaled to maybe 2 to 3 teams. So 2 to 3 other teams. And then we actually, I don't know if people understand this now, the Big Ten cannot swim a dual meet until after January 1st, and then they can only swim within conference. So you can imagine what that does to our traditional schedule with IU and Purdue and Northwestern, Wisconsin, Iowa, and Ohio State. Usually they're on our schedule. So we've been invited to wonderful West Virginia at the end of January to participate with the Mountaineers in their new pool. So I think we may take them up on that invite just to get one more splash in before we head to the conference championship. But we're putting together a schedule, and we've got some really great things going on as well. I would like to give a quick shout out. We did hire 2 new coaches this past summer. We hired Rebecca Weiland, former Big Ten champ in the 100 butterfly and 13-time All-American at University of Minnesota. She's doing a fantastic job. And we were, of course, Kai Ming, she retired, and we were able to replace Kai Ming with Mark Bradshaw, former U.S. Olympian, NCAA All-American, and actually 2-time NCAA Coach of the Year from Arizona State University. And more recently, the Heyer family, their new diving dryland facility that they were awfully nice to contribute to our program is now up and running. And we're one of very few programs in the country now that has a dedicated dryland diving facility, which is really cool. And once campus opens up, I'd be more than happy to take people around to see that. But Don, yeah, we're fighting. And the question now is, we all fight, and how hard are we going to fight for our program this year? And I got to believe we're going to do it well.
So, Mike, we ought to get this out. We ought to push this. And again, yeah. I want to, on behalf of the Swammers, really acknowledge that, some alum is going to back us for $50,000 if we can get this. If we can get the John Gibbons, Mike Shepardson, Pat McDivitt, all these guys, come on, let's throw in some cash here and see if we can't double our contributions. And again, you can do that through the Rockne Athletic fund, which is absolutely a way to do it. For some of the bigger hitters, like a Catherine Mulquin, I saw she jumped on. She's a promising young alumni. I mean, that Bridget and Katie Casey, if it's time to start thinking about endowing, scholarships, that's the way ultimately we make sure that our program continues to rise and build off the foundation that Coach Stark, 62 years ago, really started. And, Mike, I'll give you the last word, but thank you for all you're doing. We're so proud of what you've been doing in so many ways and elevating the program. And you're such a great representative of Notre Dame, and your kids, always, it's so great to see the commitment and the fact that they're all going to go off and do great things in the world. So, Mike, I'll give you the last word, and then we'll let Brian have the last word. But on behalf of all the Slammers, we're so proud of the work you're doing, and we wish you absolutely the best. And we're going to shake the money tree a little bit here to see if we can't build the moat a little bit wider.
Right. I appreciate that, Don, and thank you for your guidance. And I can say that I am very, very proud once again to have the opportunity to lead this program. And I ask a couple of favors. And the first favor is, when you're on campus, please, if you're able to, stop by. Or my phone number's on the our UNC or UND.com and text me. I'd love to catch up. And it doesn't matter what generation you're from. I would like to respond. There was that T-shirt challenge that we were put out today. Send a picture of yourself wearing one of your old swimming T-shirts. I've gotten a dozen of them so far. They're fantastic. Please keep them coming. We'll put together a collage and send that out. And all I can say is, remember your experience. It was, I'm sure, fantastic being here, being on campus, being together as a team. There's nothing like it. Those are the memories you take far, far into your life and share with your friends and your family. And we want to continue those and have that great experience continue at Notre Dame. So thank you guys all very much for being here. Tim, always a pleasure. I'll speak to you this week for sure. And Brian, I'll turn it over to you. But thank you guys again for spending some time tonight.
I won't keep you all on a Sunday night any longer. Just thank you. You all do a tremendous amount for Notre Dame across the board, at the university level, athletics and swimming. And we just really, really appreciate it. And we always did. And these times make it more so. But yes, call us when you're here. Let us know what we can do for you. Shoot us random thoughts or questions or needs. And we miss having you on campus, and hope you have a good night.